Ayesha Rascoe is a White House reporter for Reuters, and she joins us now. Ayesha, the president called the talks very good. Putin said he was delighted to meet Trump personally. What are your takeaways from this first meeting?
Well, it seems like President Trump was trying to be very cordial to President Putin, and that he used the word, "This is an honor." Now, that did raise some eyebrows from critics of the administration, who say they've been too kind, too welcoming to the Russian to Russia, and that they should take a tougher line. I think it's interesting that he did take the position that the talks were going very well and that they will continue to go very well. He could have at least given some type of signal that maybe they would have some tough discussions. He's done that with other world leaders, saying, we're going to have to discuss some hard things. He didn't do that here. He took a totally positive tone. So it's interesting that he decided to take that tack.
When you think about Syria, where America and Russia are backing opposing sides, when you think of the Russian annexation of Crimea, which the U.S. opposed, where do Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump find common ground, if anywhere?
Well, I think that's the hope, is that if they can work together, that they can try to find some type of way to make progress in Syria, to get to some type of ceasefire. Ukraine is trickier, but trying to figure out some way forward there. I think that's what President Trump came into office with, this idea that maybe there would be some grand bargain, that they would be able to work with Russia to get some concessions, and that they would be able to deal with some of these very serious issues.
President Trump ignored shouted questions from journalists like yourself about Russia's meddling in the 2016 election. Is there an expectation that, behind closed doors at least, those issues were brought up?
That's really unknown. The Democrats in Congress definitely pressed President Trump to bring up the issue of election meddling. If the issue is not brought up, it will certainly make waves among some people here stateside. But President Trump yesterday, even though he did talk about Russia destabilizing some areas in Europe, he stopped, and he did say that he thought that Russia was maybe behind the meddling. He then kind of muddied the water, saying, oh, well, but it could have been other countries, and no one really knows. So he doesn't really seem to be himself very dedicated to the idea that Russia was behind the election meddling. And so it doesn't seem like it's at the forefront of his mind. He still seems to have questions.
He seems to have questions. He also reportedly had very little agenda for the meeting. Vladimir Putin is reportedly extremely prepared for these types of meetings. On the U.S. side, however, President Trump was going to essentially wing it. What do you make of that strategy?
Well, I'm sure that the White House, I guess, wanted to kind of keep some suspense or not really lay out their game plan. I'm sure there was a game plan. Now, President Trump is not known for, going through long briefing books or really studying up. That's not his personality. He likes, short bullet points and kind of get, and visual aids. So, so there is a question of how deeply he prepared for this. But I'm sure the White House would say that they've talked with him through this, and that, that he knew what he wanted to do. There have been issues with other meetings in the past where, he's been accused of, revealing classified information. So I think they're hoping to avoid any of those things. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this.
Yeah, well, the meeting was originally scheduled for 30 minutes, and it instead went to 2 hours. A lot of time there to go through many bullet points and visual aids that Mr. Trump may have prepared with. What should we take away from the fact that the meeting was quadruple its scheduled time?
Well, clearly, you would think that since the meeting went that long, that things probably were going well. I don't think that they would sit there kind of fuming at each other for 2 hours. So you would think that hopefully that they were able to make some progress on some areas. It'll be very interesting to see what the readouts are, to see and to look for any differences between what the Russians say about the meeting and what the Americans say about the meeting. And certainly it would be interesting if you have anything to come out about the meeting or what was said that might raise some eyebrows, as what happened when the Russian foreign minister came to the White House.
Yeah, with such a well orchestrated event, I'm surprised they went with the white chairs where you sit down real low, deep cushions. Everyone looks awkward in chairs like that. But moving on anyway to trade, the U.S. and Mexico have agreed to a renegotiation, but Angela Merkel said the discussion of trade at the G20 was in fact difficult. How are the world's leaders handling Trump's attempt to go back on some of the promises that were made under the Obama administration?
Well, I think that's the toughest thing, or some of the toughest areas for the Trump administration to deal with, especially European leaders, but as you said, Mexico and Canada, is the issue of trade. What a lot of countries have been doing is kind of, refusing in some senses to open the door to renegotiation with the U.S. and focusing instead on doing deals with other countries. So instead of making the U.S. kind of the center of attention and going to the U.S. and saying, okay, let's work out these deals, they're kind of working out deals amongst each other and leaving the U.S. out of it. Now, for Mexico and Canada with the NAFTA issue, it looks like they're going to have to try to come to the table at least somewhat. But I think that, the European countries are trying to stand strong. French President Macron has said, look, we need to look out for Europe, and we're not going to deal with, if the U.S. starts doing tariffs and things like that, we can't be naive to that, and that we have to be able to defend ourselves, which may mean kind of retaliatory measures. So this is a very tricky issue for the Trump administration to deal with.
Ayesha Rascoe, White House correspondent for Reuters. Ayesha, thank you very much.